Hooves thundered against silk carpet as the last Abbasid caliph of Baghdad suffocated beneath layers of Persian wool. February 20th, 1258. The Mongol warriors laughed as bones cracked beneath their horses' weight. Al-Mustasim's fingers clawed at the fabric, crushing his windpipe. Gold rings scraped against wool. His lungs burned. Outside, smoke billowed from the House of Wisdom. Centuries of knowledge crackled in flames. Mathematical treatises turned to ash. Medical texts blackened and curled. The caliph who'd funded these treasures now gasped his final breaths, wrapped like cargo. Mongol tradition forbade spilling royal blood on the ground, so they'd found another way. The carpet muffled his screams. Horses circled, their breath steaming in the winter air. Each pass drove more air from the caliph's chest. The man who'd ruled from golden thrones died pressed into mud. Wine from his secret cellars still stained palace floors. Perfume from his 1,000 concubines hung thick in abandoned chambers. The empire that changed human history was dying in the most humiliating way imaginable, and the secrets buried with it were darker than anyone suspected. How did an empire that gave us algebra and modern medicine harbor rulers who sanctioned drug use and maintained 1,000-woman harems? Why did caliphs who publicly preached piety secretly drown themselves in wine and forbidden pleasures? To understand this shocking contradiction, we must peel back the palace curtains and step into the hidden world of the caliphates, starting with the discovery that would make modern scandals look tame. The wine goblet hit marble floor with a crash that could wake the prophet himself. Caliph Al-Walid II just laughed. Red liquid splashed across white stone, staining the prayer rug beneath. Servants froze. The year was 743 Damascus. In the throne room next door, religious scholars debated Islamic law. Their voices carried through cedar doors. Al-Walid poured another cup. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, from excitement. The forbidden taste made everything sharper. Musicians struck their ouds. Dancing girls swirled silk scarves through perfumed air. This scene repeated nightly in the Umayyad palace. Public prayers at dawn, secret parties after dark. The contradiction started early. The very first Umayyad caliphs built their empire on this double life. Muawiyah. I established Damascus as the capital in 661. He prayed 5 times daily in public. Behind closed doors, Byzantine wine flowed freely. Persian dancers entertained until sunrise. The palace walls held these secrets well. Thick stone muffled sounds of revelry. But servants whispered. They always whispered. Stories spread through Damascus markets like wildfire. The caliph's wine collection rivaled any Christian merchant's. His private chambers hosted poets who sang of earthly pleasures, not heavenly rewards. These early years set the pattern. Each Umayyad ruler pushed boundaries further. Yazid kept hunting dogs in the palace. He dressed them in gold collars. Religious leaders called it blasphemy. Yazid hosted more parties instead. The dogs drank wine from silver bowls while scholars raged outside. Then came the women. At first, just wives and legitimate concubines. Islamic law allowed 4 wives, unlimited concubines. But unlimited had different meanings to different caliphs. Al-Walid started collecting. Not just women. He collected their stories, their talents, their exotic origins. Ethiopian singers, Circassian dancers, Andalusian poets. The harem system was born from this collecting impulse. Not the romantic fantasy later Orientalists imagined. The real thing was stranger. Women arrived as gifts from conquered territories, tribute in human form. Some came willingly, seeking palace luxury. Others arrived in chains. All entered a world with its own rules, its own hierarchies, its own dangers. Inside the harem, power shifted like sand. The caliph's mother ruled supreme. His favorite wife commanded respect, but favorites changed. Yesterday's beloved became today's forgotten. Women learned to navigate this treacherous landscape. They formed alliances. They gathered information. They whispered secrets that could topple dynasties. Al-Walid II took these excesses to new heights. He didn't just drink wine. He bathed in it. Literally. Servants filled marble pools with vintage wines from Syria. The caliph floated naked while musicians played. He composed blasphemous poetry comparing wine to holy water, one verse survives. In wine I find the paradise promised by preachers. The palace housed two worlds. Public spaces gleamed with piety, prayer halls echoed with devotion, scholars taught Quranic interpretation. Meanwhile, underground passages led to different rooms, rooms where anything was possible, where religious law bent like heated metal, where caliphs explored every pleasure wealth could buy. These secret indulgences required management. Special servants, usually eunuchs, controlled access. They scheduled the caliph's double life, morning prayers in the mosque, afternoon governance in the throne room, evening debauchery in hidden chambers. The logistics alone were staggering. Food arrived on golden platters. Not just any food, delicacies forbidden by strict interpretation, wine-soaked meats, dishes prepared by Christian cooks, desserts dripping with alcohol-infused syrups. The kitchens operated in shifts. Day cooks prepared lawful meals. Night cooks knew different recipes. Music filled these secret hours. Not the approved religious chants. Wild melodies from conquered lands. Rhythms that made bodies move involuntarily. Instruments considered too sensual for public performance. The oud strings vibrated with forbidden frequencies. Drums pounded out pre-Islamic beats. The palace intrigue started small. A poisoned cup here, a rival concubine there, but ambitions grew with the empire. By 740, the Umayyad Caliphate stretched from Spain to India. More territory meant more wealth. More wealth meant more excess. More excess meant more secrets to protect. Assassinations became routine, not public executions. Those followed Islamic law. These were different. Silent deaths in the night, bodies discovered at dawn, no witnesses, no trials. Just empty beds and whispered speculation. The palace guard learned to look away. Their survival depended on selective blindness. But what happened next in Damascus would make wine drinking look like child's play. The year was 744. The palace walls themselves would run red with blood, and the man responsible wore the caliph's own crown. The doors to the majlis swung open with barely a whisper. Cedar wood, oiled daily, moved on silent hinges. Inside, voices rose and fell like waves against stone. Not prayers, arguments, heated debates that would have meant death in the public square. A Christian priest slammed his palm on the marble table. The sound echoed off vaulted ceilings. Across from him, a Muslim scholar leaned forward, eyes blazing. Between them sat a Jewish rabbi, quill scratching across parchment, recording every word. This was Baghdad, 796, the early years of the Abbasid Caliphate. Caliph Harun al-Rashid presided from his elevated seat. Gold threads in his robe caught lamplight. He listened, fingers steepled, as three faiths collided in his private chamber. The topic tonight, the nature of the soul. Tomorrow they'd debate mathematics. Next week, the movement of stars. The Majlis transformed everything. These salon gatherings weren't just discussions. They were intellectual combat zones where ideas fought for survival. The rules were simple. No topic off limits. No belief too sacred to question. No scholar too controversial to invite. The only currency that mattered was the strength of your argument. Wine helped loosen tongues. Not openly. Servants poured from ceramic jugs labeled as fruit juice. Everyone knew better. The purple stains on white beards told the truth. Even the Muslim scholars sipped between arguments. The caliph pretended not to notice. These sessions started after midnight prayers. The public mosque emptied. Guards sealed palace corridors. Then the real education began. Greek texts appeared from hidden shelves. Aristotle in Arabic translation. Plato's dialogues copied by Christian monks. Hindu mathematical treatises smuggled from Delhi. Knowledge had no religion in these rooms. The transformation happened gradually. First, just trusted advisors attended. Then scholars from conquered territories. Soon, anyone with revolutionary ideas found their way to the Majlis. Heretics became honored guests. Skeptics earned golden rewards. The more controversial your theories, the warmer your welcome. Al-Razi arrived on a humid Tuesday in 804. The physician's reputation preceded him. He questioned everything: religious dogma, ancient Greek medicine, even the Prophet's dietary recommendations. Guards almost turned him away, but Harun al-Rashid had heard whispers. This man might change everything. The Caliph's private laboratory waited 3 floors below the Majlis Hall. Stone walls kept the space cool. Shelves lined with glass vessels reflected torchlight. Copper instruments gleamed on wooden tables. This wasn't decoration. Real experiments happened here, real discoveries that could reshape the world. Al-Razi's eyes widened as he descended the stairs. The smell hit first. Sharp, acidic, familiar yet different. Liquids bubbled in connected flasks. Steam rose through curved tubes. Condensation dripped into collection vessels. The Caliph's servants had built something extraordinary, a distillation apparatus unlike anything in Greek texts. "Show me what you've discovered," the Caliph commanded. His voice carried unusual excitement, not the tone of a ruler, the eagerness of a fellow seeker. Al-Razi approached the apparatus carefully. Clear liquid pooled in the final vessel. He dipped his finger, tasted. His expression changed. The liquid burned his throat. Not like wine. Stronger, purer, something new entirely. Al-Razi had just tasted distilled alcohol. In the Caliph's own laboratory. Created by Muslim scientists. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. The substance that would revolutionize medicine born in the heart of Islamic power. But alcohol was just the beginning. The Majlis sessions grew bolder each month. Astronomers presented models that placed the sun at the center. Mathematicians introduced concepts that wouldn't reach Europe for centuries. Physicians dissected corpses in basement rooms, all with the Caliph's blessing, all hidden from public view. The intellectual freedom attracted brilliant minds, like honey draws flies, but it also attracted something else: suspicion. Orthodox religious leaders noticed the late-night gatherings. They heard rumors of wine and heresy. They saw Christian and Jewish scholars entering palace gates. The contradiction became impossible to ignore. Some scholars pushed boundaries too far. Ibn al-Rawandi openly mocked prophets in the Majlis. All prophets. He called revelation a trick of the mind, mental illness dressed in divine clothing. The other attendees gasped. Even in this liberal environment, some lines seemed uncrossable, but the Caliph merely smiled. "Continue your argument," he said. The debates grew more extreme. Nature of God, existence of the afterlife, whether religious law applied to those who rejected religion entirely. Each session chipped away at orthodox foundations. The scholars knew they played with fire. Speaking these ideas publicly meant execution, but in the Majlis, thoughts flowed like the hidden wine. Translation projects accelerated. Not just Greek philosophy anymore. Persian Zoroastrian texts, Indian Buddhist sutras, even ancient Babylonian tablets. Every wisdom tradition found translators in Baghdad. The caliphs funded it all. They built libraries to house the flood of knowledge. They paid scribes to copy dangerous ideas. The House of Wisdom rose from these midnight sessions. Not just a library, a research institution unlike anything before. Scholars received salaries to think, to experiment, to question. The budget exceeded some small kingdoms, all funded by an Islamic caliphate that publicly enforced religious law. Chemistry advanced fastest. The laboratory discoveries shocked even veteran natural philosophers. Acids that dissolved metals, salts that exploded in flame, substances that changed color with temperature. Each breakthrough came from mixing Islamic, Greek, Persian, and Indian knowledge. The Majlis made this fusion possible. Medicine transformed too. Al-Razi's students performed surgeries using the distilled alcohol. Wounds stayed clean. Patients survived procedures that previously meant death. They wrote detailed observations, created medical encyclopedias, all while orthodox preachers condemned them for impiety. The intellectual explosion couldn't stay hidden forever. Stories leaked from palace walls. Servants whispered about the heretical discussions. Guards spoke of foreign scholars and wine-stained manuscripts. Baghdad's conservative population grew restless. They sensed their world changing, old certainties dissolving like salt in water. Political implications emerged slowly. If scholars could question religious truth in the Majlis, what about political authority? If Greek logic trumped revealed scripture, where did that leave caliphal legitimacy? The very discussions that enriched human knowledge undermined the foundations of Islamic rule. Some caliphs recognized the danger. They tried to limit topics, restrict attendance, control the flow of wine and ideas, but momentum had already built. Scholars addicted to intellectual freedom found ways around restrictions. Secret sessions continued in private homes. The genie had escaped its bottle. By 833, the situation reached a breaking point. Caliph al-Ma'mun made a fateful decision. He would bring Majlis ideas into public policy. The Mihna Inquisition began. Scholars faced interrogation about their beliefs. Not orthodox beliefs, rationalist beliefs. The tables had turned completely. Now, religious judges had to defend literal interpretation. Rationalist philosophers held inquisitorial power. Those who insisted on traditional readings faced imprisonment. The intellectual revolution born in secret chambers burst into daylight. Blood would flow in Baghdad streets, brother would betray brother. The Majlis had succeeded too well. Ideas meant for midnight debate became state doctrine. Philosophy designed for elite minds was forced on common believers. The balance that kept the caliphate stable started tilting dangerously. What started as intellectual curiosity became political weapon. Behind palace walls, the original Majlis continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Scholars watched their words more carefully. The free flow of wine and ideas slowed to a trickle. Everyone understood the stakes now. These weren't just theoretical discussions. People died for these ideas. Empires rose and fell on these arguments. Yet the damage was already done, or perhaps the progress. Depending on your view, the translated texts spread across the Islamic world. The medical discoveries saved countless lives. The mathematical concepts revolutionized astronomy. The philosophical arguments would echo through centuries, all born from those forbidden midnight gatherings. The legacy proved double-edged. Islamic civilization reached unprecedented heights of learning, but the same openness that enabled discovery also introduced doubts. Doubts about religious authority, doubts about political systems, doubts that would eventually contribute to the caliphate's downfall. The ideas born in these rooms would either elevate humanity or destroy the caliphate from within. And in the palace dungeons, another kind of society was taking shape, one where the normal rules of civilization ceased to exist entirely. The screaming stopped at midnight. Another brother dead, another rival eliminated, another step closer to the throne. In the Abbasid palace of 833, succession meant survival. The caliph's 50 sons understood this mathematics perfectly. Blood pooled beneath the cedar door. Servants pretended not to see the dark liquid seeping into hallway stones. They stepped around it, eyes averted, carrying silver trays to other chambers. The body inside would disappear before dawn. It always did. By morning prayers, even the bloodstains would vanish. Only whispers would remain. Prince Ahmad pressed his ear against his chamber wall. Stone carried sound better than air in these ancient corridors. He counted his remaining brothers. 32 left. Last week there had been 35. The algebra of succession was simple. Fewer brothers meant better odds. His own dagger rested beneath silk pillows. Down the corridor, feminine laughter bubbled through latticed windows. The harem quarters never slept. 1,000 women filled 3 palace wings. Not metaphor, actual census. The eunuch accountants kept precise records. 900 concubines, 90 wives, assorted daughters, sisters, aunts, each one a potential ally or enemy in the succession game. The women understood power better than any general. They'd learned it young. Circassian girls arrived at 12, Ethiopian beauties at 14, Persian poets barely passed their first blood. The harem swallowed them whole. Those who adapted survived. Those who didn't became cautionary whispers in the bathhouses. Sultana Zainab ruled this feminine empire with iron wrapped in silk. The caliph's mother had outlived 3 sons. She'd orchestrated the deaths of 2. Now she groomed her grandson for the throne. Her apartments occupied the entire 4th floor, Windows overlooked both the execution courtyard and the garden where princes played. The symbolism wasn't subtle. She summoned her grandson at the second prayer call. Prince Harun climbed marble stairs, each step measured. His mother had died mysteriously last month. Poisoned dates, the physicians whispered. Now grandmother would shape his education. He was 7 years old. Already he'd watched 2 uncles strangled with silk scarves. "Your brother Ahmad plots against you," Zainab announced without preamble. Her voice carried the certainty of one who'd survived 4 caliphs. "His mother meets with the palace guards nightly." The child nodded solemnly. In this palace, 7-year-olds learned assassination before arithmetic. His tutors included a master poisoner from Damascus, a strangler from Cairo, a knife expert who'd served the Fatimids. Traditional subjects like poetry came later. First, survival. The harem trained its own assassins, women who could kill with hairpins, who knew which perfumes masked deadly toxins, who could seduce information from any man. These skills passed from mother to daughter like heirloom jewelry, more valuable than gold, more necessary than beauty. Competition started in the communal baths. Steam rose from heated pools while women sized up rivals. New arrivals faced immediate sorting. Pretty fools became playthings. Clever beauties earned education. The truly exceptional might mother princes. Each category brought different dangers. The concubines developed their own hieroglyphics, messages written in henna patterns, warnings encoded in jewelry arrangements, alliances signaled through silk color choices. The eunuchs understood but stayed neutral. Their survival depended on serving whoever currently held power. Food became weapon and shield. Every meal potentially lethal. Taste testers died weekly. The kitchen staff rotated constantly. Trust meant sharing from the same plate. Refusing food meant declaring war. The dining protocols rivaled any military strategy. Children grew up breathing this poisoned air. Prince and bastard alike learned to recognize the smell of arsenic in honey, the shimmer of ground glass in wine, the bitter aftertaste that meant tomorrow would never come. Paranoia became survival instinct. Harun's education accelerated after his uncle's death. Grandmother Zainab supervised personally. Morning lessons covered traditional caliphate history. Afternoon sessions taught practical applications, how the Umayyads eliminated rivals, where the early Abbasids hid bodies, which poisons left no trace. The palace architecture itself taught lessons. Secret passages honeycombed the walls. Hidden chambers allowed private meetings. Acoustic tricks let certain rooms function as listening posts. Survival meant memorizing every hidden door, every escape route, every potential ambush point. Assassination attempts came like seasonal rains, expected but still dangerous. Harun survived 3 before his 8th birthday. Poisoned sweets from a jealous aunt, a cobra in his bed linens. A archer who missed by inches during garden games. Each attempt strengthened his position. Survivors earned respect. The women competed through their sons. A successful prince meant elevation for his mother. A dead prince meant relegation to the forgotten wings. Mothers coached sons in murder while teaching them to tie their turbans. The contradiction never registered. This was simply palace life. Some concubines chose different strategies. Intelligence over assassination. They cultivated networks spanning the entire caliphate. Letters arrived hidden in silk bolts. Information flowed through merchant caravans. A concubine might never leave the harem, but her web stretched from Cordoba to Samarkand. The smartest women avoided producing princes entirely. Daughters brought different opportunities, less deadly competition, more marriage alliances. A well-placed daughter could secure her mother's position for decades. Several concubines mysteriously birthed only girls. The midwives kept their secrets. Entertainment masked darker purposes. Poetry recitations concealed threat assessments. Musical performances covered whispered conspiracies. Dance exhibitions distracted while assassins moved through shadows. Every pleasure had sharp edges in this gilded cage. The eunuchs navigated between factions like ships between reefs. Castrated as children, they existed outside normal power structures, neither fully male nor female. Trusted with harem secrets yet forbidden from dynasty building, their unique position made them invaluable intermediaries. Chief eunuch Masrur controlled more information than any vizier. He knew which prince visited which concubine, who met secretly in the garden pavilions, where the bodies were buried. Literally, his archive contained enough scandal to topple the caliphate. He burned selected documents weekly, maintaining the balance of terror. Medical knowledge served multiple purposes. Physicians who delivered princes also provided abortifacients. Herbs that eased childbirth could cause miscarriage in different doses. The same hands that healed also harmed. Hippocratic oaths meant nothing behind harem walls. Wet nurses held special power. They raised future caliphs from birth, shaped their earliest memories. A devoted nurse could protect her charge better than any guard. A corrupted nurse could destroy a dynasty with poisoned milk. The selection process rivaled choosing generals. By age 10, Harun had systematically eliminated 5 brothers. Not personally. Grandmother Zainab handled logistics, but he chose targets and methods. Each death moved him closer to succession. Ahmad still lived, protected by his mother's guard connections. That problem required special handling. The harem's 1,000 women generated endless intrigue. Shifting alliances created new dangers daily. Yesterday's friend became today's threat. Trust lasted exactly as long as mutual benefit. Everyone understood the rules. Play or be played. Kill or be killed. Rise or disappear. Sexual politics added another layer. The caliph couldn't possibly visit 1,000 women. Favorites received attention. Others waited years between summons. Neglected wives grew desperate. Forgotten concubines plotted revenge. The economy of desire created its own violence. Some women found alternate satisfactions. Carefully, secretly, the eunuchs weren't entirely incapacitated. Palace guards could be bribed. Visiting merchants disappeared into private chambers. Discovery meant death, but loneliness drove women to extraordinary risks. The children born from these liaisons faced unique challenges. Obviously not the caliph's offspring, yet raised in the palace, living proof of their mother's crimes. Some mothers killed these infants immediately. Others raised them as weapons for future revenge. The bloodlines grew impossibly tangled. Ramadan brought special tensions. Religious observation clashed with survival needs. Fasting weakened defenses. Night prayers provided assassination opportunities. The holy month saw more deaths than any other. Piety became another mask for murder. The palace maintained its own economy. Not just gold and silk. Information traded at higher premiums. A whispered secret could buy protection. The right rumor could destroy enemies. Women who mastered this currency ruled from behind veils and walls. Harun's final test came during his 12th year. Grandmother Zainab presented the challenge simply: Ahmad dies tomorrow, or you do. No more protection, no more guidance. The prince must act independently or perish. The lesson had always pointed toward this moment. The boy considered his options through the night. Direct assassination seemed crude. Poison felt predictable. He needed something that would send a message. Something that would establish his reputation among the surviving brothers. By dawn, he'd made his choice. Ahmad's death shocked even hardened palace veterans. But one caliph's method of eliminating rivals was so disturbing, even his own guards refused to speak of it. The execution order sat unsigned on his desk while the caliph secretly funded the heretic's research. The paradox defined Al-Mamun's reign: death sentence in one hand, gold coins in the other. The year was 830. Baghdad's intellectual revolution had reached its crisis point. The philosopher waited in an underground chamber 3 levels beneath the throne room. No windows, one door. Stone walls sweated moisture in the afternoon heat. Ibn al-Rawandi knew his writings deserved death. Every religious authority agreed. His books mocked prophets. All prophets: Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. He called them clever deceivers or deluded madmen. Yet here he sat, counting gold dinars from the caliph's treasury. The coins clinked against marble table, payment for his next treatise, the one that would question whether God needed to exist at all. The caliph, who publicly enforced religious law, privately sponsored its destruction. Footsteps echoed down the spiral stairs. The philosopher's hand moved toward his knife. Even protected guests died mysteriously in palace depths. But the footsteps belonged to a friend. Another court philosopher, Al-Warraq, carried wine and troubling news. "The orthodox faction grows stronger," he whispered. Wine splashed into copper cups. "They demand your head." The caliph wavers. The two men drank in silence. Both understood the game. Al-Mamun needed their ideas to modernize his empire. But he also needed religious support to maintain power. The balance shifted daily. Yesterday's protected thinker became tomorrow's executed heretic. Above them, the caliph wrestled with impossible choices. His own beliefs had evolved through years of secret study. The rational theology of the Mu'tazila school appealed to his intellect. God acted according to logic. Justice preceded divine commands. Human reason could determine right from wrong. Revolutionary ideas that challenged traditional Islam, but forcing these beliefs on his subjects had backfired spectacularly. The Mihna Inquisition turned philosophers into inquisitors. Common believers faced interrogation about abstract theology. Those who insisted on literal Quranic interpretation faced imprisonment, torture, death. The intellectual revolution had become tyranny. In the palace library, banned books multiplied like locusts, not destroyed, preserved, studied. The caliph's collection included every heretical text in existence: Gnostic Gospels, Manichaean scriptures, Zoroastrian prophecies, even atheist treatises, all carefully catalogued by nervous librarians who prayed 5 times daily to prove their orthodoxy. The translation movement accelerated beyond control. Greek philosophy had opened doors that couldn't close. Aristotle's logic dissected religious claims. Plato's ideals challenged Islamic law. Epicurus whispered that gods didn't care about human affairs. Each translated page weakened traditional foundations. Medical discoveries created new theological problems. Dissection revealed no soul residing in the heart. Mental illness responded to drugs, not exorcism. Physical causes explained mystical experiences. The physicians who made these discoveries still prayed publicly. Privately, doubt gnawed at their certainty. Al-Mamun's predicament worsened each day. His rationalist policies alienated traditional Muslims, but abandoning them would betray everything he believed. The middle ground had vanished. Blood stained Baghdad streets as theological disputes turned violent. Brothers killed brothers over the nature of God's attributes. Secret societies formed in response. The Ikhwan al-Safa, Brothers of Purity, met in hidden locations. They synthesized Greek philosophy, Islamic mysticism, and scientific observation. Their encyclopedic letters circulated underground. Each text pushed boundaries further. Mathematics became mysticism. Astronomy revealed divine patterns. Chemistry unlocked creation's secrets. The caliph knew about these groups. His spies attended their meetings. Some spies became believers. The ideas were too powerful to resist. Once exposed to logical analysis of religious claims, few returned to simple faith. The infection spread through educated classes like plague. In the palace depths, Ibn al-Rawandi continued writing. His latest work dissected the concept of prophecy, not attacking individual prophets anymore, questioning the entire mechanism. How could God communicate with humans? Why choose some and not others? What distinguished revelation from hallucination? Each question cut deeper than swords. The Mu'tazila theologians who once seemed radical now appeared conservative. They still believed in God, prophecy, afterlife, just interpreted differently. But the philosophers went further. Some questioned everything. Others built elaborate systems that relegated God to distant first cause. Practical atheism dressed in theological language. The caliph's own brother led the orthodox resistance. Al-Mutasim commanded the Turkish Guard. Soldiers who cared nothing for philosophy. They wanted simple faith and generous pay. The intellectual debates meant nothing to men who lived by the sword. They saw heresy weakening the empire, making men question authority, undermining military discipline. Letters arrived daily demanding action. Provincial governors reported unrest. Traditional scholars preached rebellion. The common people felt confused, angry, abandoned. Their simple faith had sustained them through conquest and plague. Now intellectuals told them their beliefs were childish. The resentment boiled over into violence. Al-Ma'mun made desperate compromises: public orthodoxy, private free thought. But the division proved unsustainable. Philosophers couldn't hide their contempt for traditional beliefs. Orthodox preachers couldn't ignore palace-funded heresy. The center could not hold. The Ismaili underground offered a different path. They didn't reject religion. They reinterpreted it completely. Every verse had 7 levels of meaning: the surface level for common believers, hidden depths for initiates. Their Da'i missionaries spread across the caliphate, teaching secret doctrines that transformed Islam into mystical philosophy. These networks operated with remarkable discipline. Cell structures prevented infiltration, code words identified fellow believers, safe houses sheltered traveling teachers. The caliph's intelligence services knew they existed but couldn't penetrate their security. Every arrested member died rather than reveal secrets. Their ultimate goal remained mysterious. Some whispered about overthrowing the Abbasid Caliphate. Others claimed they sought to transform Islam from within. Their libraries contained texts that would shock even palace philosophers, writings that decoded Quranic verses into astronomical observations, that found Greek philosophy hidden in Arabic poetry. The intellectual ferment attracted foreign observers. Byzantine theologians visited Baghdad. Indian mathematicians debated Muslim astrology.